It is the Anfield Wrap after Liverpool beating Crystal Palace by 3-1. We'll get into that in a minute. I've got Ian Salmon, Adam Melia and Kev Riley as part of that, but we are brought to you by Peloton. Very, very pleased to be brought by Liverpool FC's official strength and conditioning partner. And we're halfway through, it says here, from John Gibbons, our challenge to cycle, walk, run the distance Mo Salah travelled to Liverpool from his home in Egypt. 92 people have taken part so far, and they are all in with a chance to win one of 3 pairs of tickets to Liverpool versus Chelsea on Saturday the 9th of May. But it is not too late to join in. You just got to download the Peloton app, join the Anfield Wrap team, and then you need to sign up to the challenge. That bit's important. The last step is to enter the competition at the AnfieldWrap.typeform.com/Chelsea. That will be in the show blurb. Anyone who has travelled 1 mile or 100 miles can enter. I don't know what we're doing. By the way, it says halfway, so hopefully we've done all the way halfway. Like, it's not halfway in terms of time, it's halfway in terms of actual mileage. Let's hope so. And as long as you've taken part, you can have entered in that, and winners will be notified. Excuse me, good God. On Tuesday, the 5th of April. Where did that come from? So there we have it from Peloton. To come as well, I've got Robbie O'Neill talking about the play, the Assassination of Margaret Thatcher. That'll be on at the Everyman. There was some controversy about that, cooked up initially when it was written by Hilary Mantel, and then cooked up a little bit over the weekend as well by the Sunday Times, but you can't trust them. However, let's hope all publicity is good publicity, and it was a great conversation with Robbie that is to come. Liverpool 3, Crystal Palace 1. Adam, I'd say before you even get into the off-the-pitch stuff, which we will come to, there's good, bad and ugly for Liverpool in amongst all of it. But really, let's start with the overwhelming good, which is the win. And the way the table is now, the fact that Liverpool have created themselves a really healthy buffer of effectively just solely 3 wins. This is the nature of being in this bit of the table. It's the nature of the league this season as well. And seeing those points get on the board, seeing the ball hit the back of the net, seeing Liverpool score the first 2 goals in any game this season, it's only a good thing.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, and yeah, you say it's off the back of, you know, it's a fairly small amount of wins, 3 wins, but there's only probably us and City that can say we've won 3 league games in a row. I suspect, or maybe Brighton or
no, even Brighton have had a draw dropped in there now as well.
So the teams around us and in general, well, there's a few teams at the bottom who've started to find some form, but yeah, it does feel as if, from being in a strange place where we kind of, what I said on a show, I sort of can't believe we're 5th a while ago because it felt that bad. I feel like we have hit some form, and I'm kind of being cautious about it still. But I guess we'd said on overview shows and things that you might need to kind of park PSG, the 2 legs against PSG, because that was kind of going to be its own thing. And so if you do park that, you know, there was things about those 2 legs which made it hard to kind of get from your mind, and you can't literally put something to one side. It is all the same team that's happening to. But the fact is that we've had 3 good wins in the league against 3 teams that we should be beating. You know, the derby is its own thing, but that is still the case, that the 2 home games against those teams, and then a team that's below us in the league at home or away, you know, you'd want to be winning. So yeah, although I am being cautious, I've watched it twice actually, and I did feel like once I'd sort of taken the kind of nerves and whatever else, you just sort of got some like baggage, I guess, with you when you're watching things live. I was probably a little bit less complimentary about it than I could have been when I'd watched it on Saturday, and so I think there's, although it isn't perfect by any means, there's the things that are good are the things that we were hoping were going to be good this season. So I guess that's my kind of main take from it, is that there's things happening there that I think, all right, well, that's, you know, that is actually something which we thought we might see ages ago, but at least it's happening now, and you know, there's still things that we're going for, and yeah, it's basically, as Fulham was, a sort of standard home win, but that's great, you know, from where we were
in a season where there hasn't been that many standard home
exactly.
wins, and the way in which the whole thing sort of breaks, Kev, is it does break through Isak's touch and instinct. You know, I think that does break the game wide open. It's what we invested all the money in. It's what I suspect we very much wish we'd seen more of. You can look at the 2 games in London against West Ham and Tottenham and argue you get to see it in those, but obviously it ends with Tottenham with them getting the latest injury. This is the 3rd time now. We've bought them to do this 20 times in 38 league games. but getting to see it, as I say, it's not even like it's through a well-worked move, and I want to come back and talk about that a little bit more, about whether or not we're making enough of his movement. But it doesn't matter in that there you get to see the quality. It's the touch especially. The finish is scruffy, but I love a centre-forward whose scruffy finishes end up in the back of the net.
Yeah, it was on the news either Saturday night, the result, or the Sunday, and Laura just said to me, "Is that his first league goal at Anfield as a Liverpool player?" I was like, "Yeah, I've only seen him 7 times. That's the 7th time I've seen him play football." Like, it's quite easy to forget how long he's actually been out. I watched a little bit of his post-match interview, and it was great to see him say, I saw that the shot wasn't going on target, and it's like you say, his instinct in that moment is just so quick because the shot's rifled in. It's great to see him coming to the fore in that way, and coming into form, and you're looking for him to start scoring goals now. You're not just looking for a performance defensively and offensively. You're looking for him to score goals. And it was just great to see that the team took that lead with both hands. They seem aware of the situation around them. They seem aware of how the table's looking and what they can achieve in these last few games. And it's almost a sense of, the season on a whole's been such a disappointment. So why not have a bit of fun now and enjoy it now? And although I agree with Adam that everything wasn't absolutely perfect in the football match, you kind of have to just take those little wins and enjoy those little moments and realise that things can go well, and even though things again can go against you, it's about what you make of them, and I think we saw that in spades on Saturday, so that's really good to see. And Isak's form, long may that continue as well.
The other thing to point out about where he is onside. Their lad has got himself into a pickle with Salah earlier in the move, and Isak is as close as he can be to the goal, whilst not risking being offside.
He's onside by at least a yard.
He's onside, but it's the point. The point is that he knows where he should be.
Yeah.
He looks to the naked eye very quickly because of where all the other defenders are, but the point is he knows. And you get to see, I think, especially whilst Liverpool are on top at the start of the second half, so often his movement, I think, is absolutely exceptional. He's never offside, but he's so often in enough space that if someone was to slip him the ball or the cross was to come in at the right time, he would be able to pounce on it. I was yet again really pleased with his movement at Anfield there, Ian, and I just think you got to see, with the goal, but also with what could come, a lot of positives.
I thought he was absolutely excellent. The time he was on the pitch, I thought he performed in the way you expect him to perform. He's a proper number 9. The goal was a proper striker's goal. I don't agree that the finish was scruffy. I think the finish was exactly where he intended to put it, from where the ball was dropping to him. Because he's taken the first touch, he's flicked it up for himself, he's hit into the ground over the goalie. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And that's what you pay for. You pay for the intelligence of these footballers at this level. And he's clearly got the game intelligence to do that kind of thing. The thing that I was happy about in the second half was his pace was coming back. You could see him getting faster in the second half. So in the first half, I thought he toiled quite a bit to get anywhere near the game. The ball just wasn't coming from him. The goal makes a difference to him because he's got that to build on. They've seen what he can do. It is just, it's a pot shot from McAllister aiming towards nowhere, which he just takes, which just genius touch. But the second half, I turned to the lad next to me and went, his pace is coming back. And you could see not just the movement, but the speed he's moving at. So it's not just the intelligence, but the fitness is coming back as well. I have an issue with the substitution when he comes off, which I'm sure we'll move on to later. What happens with that substitution, because we changed the entire shape of the game. But
why do you think we did that?
I genuinely don't know, because I've been listening to the review on the way in. The way yourself and Sean were talking about the fact that he had the long ball to Gakpo to break off the defender. I thought as soon as we took Isak off and we put Gravenberch on for him, we had no outball. We lost the outball altogether, and we were trying to play Wirtz as a 9. And the game just didn't work for me until it did in literally the last minute. But
I'd sort of dispute that. I think the shape, I think he just wants Gakpo versus Richards. So he goes all in on that to have, especially for Woodman to be able to hit that. I think that's what he's thinking when he takes him off. I think the biggest issue is back to the now legendary, but he hasn't got anyone else who can play centre forward. So I think if, for instance, if Salah doesn't go down injured, I suspect the sub would have been Frimpong on for Isak, Salah goes into centre forward, and Frimpong goes to the right hand side, and Gakpo stays there, because I think they just wanted Woodman to always know he could play that big ball in that direction, and Gakpo would
But
win
he could
it.
also play the big ball down the centre. He showed he could do that as well.
But I think my issue more, but I don't think they wanted Gakpo versus Lacroix.
No,
I think
fair
they would have
enough.
gone, Laquard will eat him alive, whereas he's getting the better of Richards, so they stick with it. But my issue is then, Christ, I think there's bits in the game where, to do the bad, Ian, we are easy to play through. But when we change that midfield shape, ironically, theoretically, we should have more midfielders in there.
But we got easier to play through. We couldn't defend. Our shape was all over the place, to the point that you had Szoboszlai and McAllister having an argument in our own penalty area about who was supposed to be where.
100%.
When I thought the obvious thing to go through, I take the point of Gakpo on that defender. And obviously we had Gakpo dropping a little bit deeper and Mo moving up. And Frimpong, when he comes on at that, it's counterintuitive because we've got the right back playing up on the forward line. We've got a midfielder playing at right back. But that worked. I had no real problem with that because Frimpong's got the pace to actually get around the back of players. And Gakpo dropping a little deeper makes sense because he does a lot of good work from a little bit deeper. But the obvious move was Gakpo down the centre and Rio down the left to give them something to worry about. Now, I don't know if there's something wrong with Rio's fitness, but we had the chance to actually take the game to him at a point where, and this is one that I was saying to Kev before we came on, I'm annoyed about a couple of things, but we're in a position where one more goal or a clean sheet, one more goal, if we'd have gone 4-1 or if we'd just gone 3-0, we'd have been above United for the weekend. We'd have gone above them on goals scored. At the moment, we're behind them on goals scored, admittedly with a game in hand for them, but you give them the scoreboard pressure of having to perform against Brentford tonight. And I thought the fact that we didn't go for it, and we were very good the first 20 minutes of the second half, but the fact we didn't go for it, and in that last 20 minutes, retreated into ourselves and allowed Palace to come at us again at a point where we're so porous in the middle of the park, despite having the extra midfielder. The shape just went so, and I think this has been the manager's issue a lot this season. When he makes a substitution, it weakens us, and it really weakened us for the last 20 minutes.
I think that is the bad. I think Ian sums up the bad quite well, and it's we're just.
I think I've done the entire show in like 3 minutes.
Well, maybe but that is, if I'm trying to describe it, why is it that I come away from matches so often thinking we are hard to watch? I do find us hard to watch at times, and part of it is that drift. I feel that games drift, and we talked on Saturday night about this, and I think you make a good point, which I missed live, about Palace being hard to play against. But I do sort of sense that, I mean, they make some great chances. Woodman is probably deservedly man of the match.
But just on that though, and this is why this becomes so counterintuitive. The great chances that they make are all well before. With the one exception, they have one chance in the second half where I think Isak's still on the pitch.
So that was going to be my point, really, is that I felt, even the second time I watched it, that a better team, a team with something more to play for, even Palace maybe with more to play for. A team with good finishing, that would have been different there. It did feel a little bit like it was playing out. For a while, that drift in the second half, before kind of the incident on 80 minutes. It did feel like it was playing out.
But even after the incident, they have one shot after. So the goal's the incident. We'll discuss the incident in a few minutes.
Yeah.
They have one more shot. The Strand Larsen one, which is counted in the stats, is offside. Yeah. When you see it back, it is offside. So they have one more shot. So I think this is one of the reasons why I don't just think we're hard to watch in a number of ways. I do think this is like a bit of a league-wide thing. You're watching us, and I don't like the shape. So I agree. I don't like the shape. I don't like where the shape ends up. I think we look like we're easy to play through. But they only managed to literally force the ball onto our goal once more in all that period, and
which is the period which I'm describing as the drift. I think maybe there is control, but it feels hard. And I guess I sense that when Liverpool haven't had good results this season, it's been something to do with that period which they feel they're in control. Then something happens. The chips are down, and all of a sudden, I'm right. All of a sudden, and it wasn't good, and it wasn't controlled. It was what it felt like. So there's that, and coupled with, as Ian said, I think the substitutions, the substitutions all season have been a huge thorn in Slot's side, really, because they do seem to weaken us. To be honest, I didn't mind it as much. As I say, I've watched it a couple of times. I didn't mind the Gravenberch for Isak one as much the second time, and I felt after it, sort of to go back to the good, I felt after they score, our fight is good, and actually there was some signs of fight from people that I've wanted a bit more fight from, McAllister being one of them. Actually, Isak being one. He has a fight with Lacroix, I think, which the referee stops, which is great. You know, we need that. We need more fight. But yeah, I think in general, even just to start with, you know, what is the kind of plan? It seems to heavily involve Salah still. So maybe you could say once he's gone off that's maybe why it looks like the plan is more a sort of defensive attack. We get the ball over there kind of thing. But yeah, it is a hard watch at times.
I think I when I wrote that we defend well, but the structure doesn't defend well. Kevin, that's sort of where I ended up with it a little bit, both in that early period and then, as I say, post the substitution. Now, as I say, post the substitution, you do need to be careful because they have one shot. and so, you know, I really, whereas it is worth saying early on in the game, Liverpool for the first 20-25 minutes, and again, that's a pattern that you can see repeated in the derby, for the first 20-25 minutes, albeit in a Merseyside derby. You know, the game's a little easier for Everton than you'd like. I'd argue in that early period, the game is a little bit easier for Crystal Palace than you like. They're able to get some set pieces and go from there. And, you know, Liverpool, though, individually, and you've got to include the goalkeeper, obviously, because he's one of the defenders, do manage to ride the period out well enough to obviously have it be 0-0. You'd just rather not be seeing chances be conceded. Yeah,
you'd rather not see them be conceded, but I feel like we're a little bit stung and stuck in our ways, and there's a little bit of PTSD going on in terms of what's happened in this season. So we've been stung so many times from just terrible, rotten luck in chances that I agree with Adam, but I think I hyper-focus. So I watched up until the incident back, and I was very much like, oh, that didn't quite play out how I thought. But I was also okay with it because you watch most games back without that sort of cloud of, not negativity, but like maybe just consciousness.
The emotion of watching live.
Yeah, and like the conscious thought of something bad here is going to happen. It amplifies a chance. Like for example, the Richards one within 5 minutes, the header. I don't know what that was in the XG. It seemed like a pretty decent chance to me in the ground. And then afterwards, I was thinking, not so bad. I mean, there are going to be chances in the football match, and you know, what are we asking for? Are we asking for a whole half of just absolute perfection, which we kind of got against Arsenal, I suppose. You know, we probably we did all right to get in at half-time with a draw, and then in the second half we were fantastic and we were a lot more attacking. Are we saying that we need sustained periods of just absolutely nothing happening? And I can understand us wanting that 2-0 up. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I am just conscious of my own sort of bias while watching the game now, considering what's going on.
Do you think, just on this though, I want to, because for me, all the way through this, and as I say, there's so many great moments in the game from a Liverpool point of view. It's great that Isak scores, you know, it's brilliant.
Counter-attacking.
Yeah, the counter-attacking goal with Robertson. It's a wonderful moment with Robertson. There's the Wirtz moment, and there's lots of good patches of good play from Liverpool individually, Kev. But there's a little bit of a thing for me that in almost all phases, with the obvious exception of 1-2, you can go, oh, I'd like a little bit more. So I'd like a little bit more of starve and make it a bit harder for Palace. I'd like them, and I think Palace are so well set up, by the way. You can say you know what they're going to do in advance, but still watching them do it, the way in which they do just control. They barely press. They just block any way you want to pass the ball and look massive doing it. But I think there's a bit of a thing with them where in all these... So, for instance, I think Liverpool are actually pretty good 45 to 65. But if someone just releases the ball earlier to Isak, at some point when he's making one of those runs, he probably goes 3-0. Yeah. So you want a bit more. Yeah. You know, you're 75 to 95, Liverpool are pretty resilient in seeing it off, but you just want a bit more of them holding the ball. Yeah. In the early stages of the game, if we're not going to be dynamic, you want a bit more of us making it harder for Palace. You know, this is where this team finds itself at the minute. That, you know, as I say, there's lots of good within the game, but there's lots of bits where, like Ian's saying, you just want a bit more.
Yeah, and you know, you talking about those sort of fine margins. There's just before the incident where Cody's ball out to Wirtz is just too long, and that's basically a one-on-one with the keeper. If we can get that right, another effort. And it seems that these moments tend to come in second halves. It doesn't seem that early on you know, there's loads of these moments. It seems to be we sort of grow into a game and then we see more of these sort of missed chances. To me, it seems like a sort of cohesion thing, and you know, look, we've had so many injuries and we've not had as many people on the pitch that we'd want at the same time that are some of our best players. There's still loads of time that they need on the pitch to be able to get better and create these connections. And And you can only really do that on the pitch. I know that, you talk about pre-season, you talk about training, but your freshness and your liveliness and your connections happen in real-time game, don't happen in friendlies. So for me, maybe I'm just a little bit more patient because I've come to terms with where we are this season, what we can achieve this season, what our goals are this season. We're not going to win the title. We've not won any trophies, and that's fine. And now I'm just looking into, I'm sort of half foot into next season. I think it's perfectly okay to want more at this stage, considering how badly our season's gone. It's not been the most perfect, wonderful season that we could have had. It's just been a little bit disjointed, and that's symptomatic of that, I think.
Yeah, I'll just go back on myself for a second in terms of wanting more. We scored 57 goals this season. Man United have scored 58. Why settle at 2-0? If you think you're on 2-0 and you're controlling the game and you're not really trying to force anything.
Do you mean the manager settling on 2-0?
Yeah.
Because I don't think the team settled on 2-0.
Why tactically do you want to contain the game at 2-0 when what you actually want is you want 4-0 or you want 5-0?
But I think, Ian, I would love to be in the position of going, 4-0, 5-0.
We should be able to at that point.
First and foremost, I think they're a decent side. I don't think it'll be a long time since anyone's put 4 or 5 past them. I'm worried there's now something that I've forgotten off the top of my head, but it's a long time since I think anyone's put 4 or 5 past them.
As you said on the review, they're a 1-1 side.
They're a 1-1 side.
Yeah. No, the last time we beat them at Anfield was it 2021 or something?
We haven't beaten them for quite a while. Yeah. But if we're in that position where we're 2-0 up and we've taken advantage, go for the third. Because once you've got the third, then substitutions become different. Real this game, in the last 5 minutes, you get Will Wright on the pitch just to give the lad a
But what I think the way Ian is, I think that it's there for them, the third 45 to 65.
Yeah.
They're just not playing the pass. And I don't think that's them not to Isak in particular. I think that's them not knowing Isak more than, there's a couple of times where Salah and Szoboszlai end up doing mad 1-2 stuff, where on 2 occasions in the same move, Isak's made a run, you can put me in here. And I think that I'm all right with them 45 to 65. They're not breaking the necks, but they're responsible.
The football's good at that point. There is a fantastic moment, so it's probably about the 70th minute, 75th minute, which sets us up for next season. So it's like the relationship between Salah and Szoboszlai, because you're getting the 1-2s because they know where they are. As soon as Frimpong comes in, Wirtz drifts over to play with Frimpong because his mate's on the pitch and he knows exactly what he's going to do. And you can see the link up, and it's the sort of thing that was never going to get onto any highlights package. But it was just a little sequence of 1-2s between the two of them, just getting the feel for the game and knowing that this lad here knows what this lad here is going to do, and they will make the movement that the other one wants. And that sets us up nicely for next season. For that point, when you've got them and you're looking at Isak connecting with them, you've got a way through.
Let's talk about when it goes 2-0, because it's a really good period of good players doing good things. Starts off with a good save from the goalkeeper. And Liverpool just do what they've so rarely done this season, Adam, which is string together 3 or 4 good, well-executed decisions on a counter-attack. And then there's the wonderful moment of Robertson getting to be the hero he is. And it's a brilliant finish as well. This is not a scruffy goal. This is not, he's bobbed up at the back post and himself kicked it into the ground and it's looped in. It's a finish a run and finish that just shows all his class. I'm delighted. What will probably be his last goal for Liverpool is one that shows all his class.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It is, despite the kind of fun and games of the other incident, this was the key moment, especially having come from the save. So Woodman makes a really good save, probably his best save, and then Liverpool play out well. I think Wirtz's role in the goal's underrated. Actually, that's a really, really good pass to Jones.
Fantastic turn.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's a fullback. You sort of don't know who it is. When it
was Gakpo, because I was focused on the run. I was focused on Curtis on the ball. So in that position, my brain just went, "Well, it's Gakpo."
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
But it's funny because watching it on LFC TV, they sort of reel off like strikers down the years that it could have been. The funny thing is actually the person that he always reminded me of physically when they were both in the team was Jota, and it was a bit of a Jota run finish actually. So yeah, that sort of flashed through my mind as well. But yeah, as you say, we possibly could just go on and on about Robertson. I could probably do an hour, but it's so nice to see that. I sincerely wish he wasn't going, to be honest. I think he's going to have a really good season for somebody somewhere, and it's a shame that can't be us because he's got these moments in him. He's such a class attacker. He's so good going forward. You know, and that's with all his other qualities, and you know, we've sort of talked about them, the kind of, you know, the real footballing things and the kind of things that are just him and the person that he is. But he's an absolutely irresistible runner. And there's he probably feels like he could have scored a few more like this. I feel like he could have scored a few more sort of proper finishes down the years. He's had lots of chances, so you know, it's maybe that's something that he can add to his game next season.
It was tremendous. It really was, Kev. It was tremendous. It was tremendous for him. I'm delighted it happened. I'm delighted it's a goal that counts. I mean, I've always had a soft spot for the Tony Adams goal. After Arsenal won the league that time when he sort of rampages forward from centre-back. But it was to make it 4-0, albeit against Everton, and we should never look that, you know, we should never be looking down on sides making it 4-0 against Everton. But, you know, the thing about this was you really needed Liverpool to get it. You know, what we haven't been good enough at, I think, is 1-2 over the course of the campaign. We managed to do it here, and Anfield really is just absolutely ecstatic.
I was going bonkers. I was going absolutely bonkers. I was Upper Main, so when he ran over and celebrated, you know, for the main stand, I felt very emotional and very part of it, because, you know, just the whole story of it, the whole fact that it's his last season, the sun's shining. He just looked so joyous in that moment during that celebration. He was going absolutely wild. Points up to his family. The finish is exquisite, and it's just sort of rolling back the years, isn't it? You know, fullback to fullback, and then off he goes. The vision to be able to make that run as well, and the brevity to make that run, I think, considering it was a corner, we seemed really conscious about getting at them from counter-attacks, from their set pieces, not just their corners, but the free kicks as well, which is, you know, we've not seen that for a couple of seasons, so that was great to see again as well. But on Andy Robbo, I'm absolutely made up for him to get that goal, and yeah, like Adam says, I hope it doesn't carry on elsewhere, and at least not at Tottenham.
Okay, the incident. Who are we mad at the most? Ian, who are you mad at the most?
Our team for not keeping playing. Strangely
so you think
enough,
we should just
I think we should just deal with it. It's not a head injury, he's down. They don't have to stop it. And if it was us playing against a team whose goalie was down, I would want our right back to lob the goalie and put it in the back of the net, and I'd be laughing all the way home. I'm kind of like, just deal with it. You've got Andy Madley refereeing. He's let loads of their players have a little sit down and stop the game for him to have a little sit down. And he's not going to stop the game for an actual foul on our goalie. Well, not being funny,
it wasn't a foul.
Well, it wasn't a foul, it was coming together.
Yeah.
But an actual injury to our goalie, it's like, it's Andy Madley. What are you expecting? It's somebody from PGMOL. What are you expecting to happen? If you think they're going to stop the game for us having to play it down, you haven't been paying attention all season. Okay. That's addressed to the team, not to anybody else.
Okay, Ian's gone with the team. I think that's actually a rock solid response. Adam, who are you most mad with?
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Probably Konate. I had to pick somebody because he could just go back to the line. He could just clear it off the line. He could walk probably and clear it off the line.
I could have walked from my seat and cleared it off the
line. Again, as I say, watching it again this morning, Slot's making a very similar point to Szoboszlai. He was not the closest to it, but he's sort of. I'm sure he's saying, yes, the referee should stop it, but you need to close down that shot.
Yeah.
You know, it's true, and the thing that also crosses my mind, and apparently Glasner said this, but you might, that's like I would say in this third hand. Glasner said that if the goalie had gone off injured, they would have let Liverpool score. I saw somebody saying that anyway, so this is a bit of hearsay. So there is a bit where
he did
say that. So there's a bit of me, and this is what I was like, you know, the kind of once you've won and you can laugh about it, you're like, well, you got to go off injured if you're gonna.
We're gonna do all this.
If you're gonna do all that, you probably need to go off injured. So it's like, I think Palace is, if I was Palace, and I think that's probably what Munoz was saying, is like, once he gets up again, it's a bit like, well, he's not injured. He's playing on.
He's playing on, and he's just taking a cracking goal kick with the leg that was injured. So
it's that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've missed an opportunity to have a go at the ref there. But,
it's not like that was. You must be well.
I know. I've calmed down a lot.
What? Who are you most mad with?
At the time, it was the team. It was the team because you know we're always talking about play to the whistle, and you know that doesn't just mean when you're attacking. It means in a defensive sense as well. Like watching it back, it was infuriating to see the amount of people in our side that's just stopped. I don't think Andy Robertson even knows that. That Woodman's down, and he could have closed down Munoz and doesn't. Munoz is well within his rights to take the shot, takes it. For me it's on the team, but there's the rules of the game and there's a spirit of the game, and I think due to the type of injury it was, so I didn't see it as a coming together because I don't think there's any contact. He just seems to jar his knee on the ground.
I don't know why he hits. I've watched it back loads of times.
He catches his stud in the turf, I think.
Yeah, it looked like a sort of his whole femur just doesn't move, and it looks like a really sore one. So if I'm the referee in the spirit of the game, I see there's no coming together. There's no reason for him to be lying on the ground other than he's probably hurt. And I blow my whistle. What I don't like is kind of, to Ian's point, the manager after the game is talking about the decisions that referees make. There's the McAllister one where he has the 5 stitches against Man United and they score. You can't be expecting any gifts off referees. I don't like that mentality from a manager because that spills down to the team. There's a lot of talk about wanting bastards in the team and all that sort of thing, and I think it comes into play. I want a little bit more.
What I find difficult, Kev, and where I will, to an extent, very much stick up for the team, but more the person I'm mad at is the referee. The reason why I'm mad at the referee is the number of things he stops going through the match.
What does he stop going through?
So Brendan Johnson's down 2 or 3 times in the first half.
So the first one that Brendan Johnson goes down is the shot, isn't it? And he falls on his shoulder, but it's already in Freddie Woodman's hands, so fair enough, stop the game.
But I think that there's another couple of them. He stops when Salah goes down. I think the ball's still in play after Salah's gone down
for his
hamstring, and he stops the game for that. I think that there's enough of the referee through the match when players were on the deck stopping the match to go, it's a bit mad you've not stopped it for the goalkeeper being down. And I think that's where I am just a little bit, that's my, if he'd have spent the match letting things go, and I want to be clear as well, he does play the advantage for the offside off the back of when Robertson scores, so this stuff isn't absolutely cut and dried. But he has shown a propensity through the game. Like, we were all livid by us the number of times Crystal Palace players were going down, and the referee was falling for it in inverted commas, and it was slow and it was getting broken up.
Well,
that's what I find hard.
In the first couple of minutes, there was a player down in the first couple of minutes, and he bought it immediately. And referees are buying this. Was it Johnson again?
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of Johnson down.
There is a lot of Johnson down in the match, and it eventually comes off, which is great. I was looking for, when I was watching it back, I wonder if the referee is being consistent. And on my watch back, I did only watch up until their goal. I did find that the stoppages were kind of even. I
think they're really even, but I think it's just... you've stopped for other things. Like I say, he stops for Salah. There's a couple of times, a couple of our players, he's stopping for our players. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think our lot thought, well, he's going to stop this because he's been stopping it for everything else.
But there's other things that he doesn't stop it for. For example, there's another chance in the first half that one of their players goes, I think it might be Wharton, goes down, and he doesn't stop it for that. And then there's another little bit of...
Yeah, Wharton goes down in the area.
Yeah, there's another few advantages where he does play on a little bit, and he is conscious of the time wasting because he books Henderson, I thought, earlier than most referees would.
Yep.
So on my second watch, I was a little bit like, well, it's kind of, there is kind of a consideration of people, when people go down and when they don't. But yeah, so my main thing was just the fact that it's quite clearly he's not going down because he's claiming a foul, he's gone down because he's hurt himself. So in the spirit of the game, you just have to stop the game there.
All right, let's move on from it and talk about other bits and pieces from the game. First thing I want to talk about is Van Dijk, Ian. I don't think he's that good until their goal. And then I think he is just, like when I say not that good, I think he's just Virgil playing as Virgil through the match. I think he's just absolutely brilliant. We've criticised the defensive structure Liverpool end up with, but everything, it feels like anyway, then for them is broken on the rock that is Van Dijk for the rest of the game. He just decides he isn't having it in the best possible way.
Yeah, there's the moment where I think it might be Brendan Johnson attacking again. It's certainly Virgil leans him slightly, just leans him.
Second half.
The second half, yeah.
Sarr, isn't it?
Sarr, is it?
Yeah, and Sarr goes down.
No, you're thinking about the one where Johnson ends up having the shot.
Ends up having the shot.
Virgil comes across.
Virgil's just pushing, and
just goes. You're going that way, and you're not coming anywhere near this. And I'm just going to make this shot as hard as I can.
I thought that was emblematic of that entire period they played, and it's emblematic of Virgil at his best, where he's actually reading the game perfectly and making sure he's the person that's stopping things happening. I thought that's where he was for that last part of the second half, despite the fact that I've criticised so much about the team. And as you said, we were defending well, singularly. All the players were defending well, but the structure wasn't defending well. So we're talking about the structure being wrong again, but within that structure, Virgil is coping better than anybody else.
always back in the side, always backing his teammates. Comes a long way to get to one first against Munoz out of the air. I think as if to make a little bit of a point, and the crowd's obviously very up at that point, as the crowd rightly is. Adam, the crowd should be up. I was just made up with Van Dijk. I like it when Van Dijk goes full Van Dijk, and I felt like he did during this game a couple of times.
Yeah, I think what can get lost in seasons like this is that somebody like Van Dijk and the defence in general and the team in general, they're always trying to build a new thing. They're trying to build the patterns and sustain the patterns, and I think that's what you see there. That I think they were the part of the game which we might find frustrating or boring is the part where they're thinking, we're not going to concede now. This the sort of the fortress, the castle. We're building that from now. We were building it last week. We're doing it again now, and that is such an important part of becoming a properly successful team. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy in the end, but we're not in the self-fulfilling prophecy stage. Where they have constantly had to try and build this thing this season, and the kind of it's harder when the fear factor is kind of dissipated a little bit for the other teams coming to Anfield. But Virgil was there. Virgil's built that before, and I think that's what you kind of see. It's almost in general, I suppose, the kind of pulling the tiger's tail aspect of that Palace goal is you do sort of get to see a little bit more raw. It's kind of like there's something in the game. There's like blood in the water, and yeah, it's great to see, because at times this season I've sort of thought, I've wondered about his style of leadership a little bit. Is the team in his image, which includes the kind of cool, relaxed thing, which doesn't seem to have been helpful this season. So I love it when you get to see fighting and organising and just leading by example and all those sorts of captaincy things that are there. He's the absolute full package, isn't he, Virgil? So it's like seeing different cards sometimes is great to see. So yeah. And he'll be feeling the same as us, both disappointments about the season, and as Kev was saying before, this time of seasons like this is when you are starting to build, and so I think that there's definitely there seems to be a determination, even if it's slightly belated, even in unsuccessful seasons. I think that we seem to be trying to build something now, but it's heartening.
Kev, the CJRBS. The Curtis Jones right back situation. He doesn't have a right back's defensive instincts, but he does want to win his battles, as and when they come to him. A couple of very good tackles within the position, a lot of ball recoveries the week before against Everton. He does have almost everything else to be a playmaker from that position, and I think he's fewer long balls than Trent, but arguably more of the metronome sort of bits and pieces. I think it's a pretty complete performance from him again, and I want the CJRBS to go on a little bit longer, because I think it helps the rest of the team. He will at some point look to be embarrassed, but then I would say there's a long list of fullbacks that play football or are fullbacks who get embarrassed over the course of 90 minutes. Their left-sided centre-half ends up being a little bit embarrassed by Mo Salah on a couple of occasions, despite being faster and stronger than him. I do feel a little bit like, let's keep seeing what this looks like for now.
Yeah, a really good performance. Basically the performance that I would have wanted from him in that position. And I did want him to start in that position, just because of what he can offer as a midfielder from right back. And like you say, that the defensive instincts aren't there, but where he's helped out is just his reading of the game. So he can use his reading of the game to be able to shut down passing lanes, get interceptions, make blocks and tackles. He gets himself into trouble a little bit, where he gets a little bit too clever, but they get a corner from it and we score from it. So I'm counting that as a pre-assist.
And then he gets to the actual assist.
And then he gets the actual assist. I think he had a really good game, and I think if you're going to try that as an experiment, it works really well when it's Curtis Jones, because he's got the bravado and the confidence to be able to sort of, fill some big shoes there. I like this idea of Trent Light, because although he's not doing the outlet from big, massive, long cross balls or big, long balls up to Salah, it's the little sort of 1-2s with Szoboszlai or McAllister, or finding areas of space or drawing into players to create the space for others. Is kind of what we needed in those last two games. He's done really well there. Yeah, really interesting that he was started again, because it seems like it's not an opposition thing. It's obviously a structural thing that the manager's looking at, and he seems happy to go there again. You know, so yeah, the big one really is Sunday, Neil, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. That I don't think it's just going to be a plug and play sort of situation for us at Old Trafford. He needs to raise his level again, and he's been at a really high level over these past 2 games.
I think he's brave all the time, Ian. I think he's so brave with the ball, brave what he wants to do with it. I think it's really impressive stuff.
His entire Liverpool career, basically. You know, he's always had that reputation of holding onto a ball for too long, and people criticise him for it. But what he does well is he shields the ball, he moves the ball well. He'll take the time, and he'll actually look for the proper pass that needs to happen. He's always brave enough to actually go for the risky ball. And I've liked Curtis for a very, very long time. I think, you know, I've sat here years ago saying he is the player the media thinks Phil Foden is, and taking absolute pelters for it at times, and probably fairly deservedly at times. But
no one knows who the player Phil Foden is, though, Ian.
Well, they don't anymore.
Like Phil Foden himself is confused.
Phil Foden, yeah, everyone's confused now.
Every other season from poor Phil. You're not
He's a different player per season.
He's very, very strange.
Cracking angler though. Some of the fish he catches.
Is he a crazy?
He's a fantastic fisherman. That's the player.
Is he the Premier League's natural successor to Tony Hibbert?
Yes, I think so. He loves a big fish.
Does he?
Yeah.
I'm delighted by this turn of
Actually,
events.
I knew that because he was on Gone Fishing. He sent a little clip to Bob Mortimer, and and they were absolutely made up. And I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. No, it makes sense.
I can't believe he said he loves a big fish and nobody looked back to me.
It's
easy fish gag there.
I mean, they're now legendary. I keep saying it. I can't believe how many times I've had to ask this question this week, this season. I've never had to ask it this much before, ever doing the Anfield Wrap. Are you starting right back next weekend?
Yeah, I mean the answer is Curtis Jones. I think I've got a bit. I'm quite calm about this game, more so than I am most seasons, to be honest. But I am aware that things happen in that fixture, and in Trent's early days as fullback, he had some very bad afternoons at Old Trafford. So you can you can kind of imagine, you can imagine a sort of,
everyone looks a bit daft afterwards.
Yeah, there's an overlapping wing of sort of someone in the channels, and it's somewhere between Trent and Lovren. So yeah, I sort of think you kind of have to swallow it. I don't want to see Szoboszlai there. So yeah, I think my answer is Curtis. My sort of big wider point about Curtis is that I don't, even though he has his critics, I think that the majority feeling is it would be mad to sell him. I really feel like that would be mad on many levels. I feel like he's a perfect squad player. He's shown that he's happy to be rotated in and out. He's really good. He's from here. I don't know. I think he can adjust his style. He's shown he can play different positions.
He's played in about 7 different positions over his career, hasn't he?
It just feels mad. I mean, yeah. So that's my wider feeling about it. But yeah, I do feel like when we've kind of tweaked things over the years, he's often been a part of it as well. So I think actually that we might have seen something here which probably should have been landed on a little bit earlier, which is the fact that we have missed ball playing, playmaking from right back.
What I think that's interesting is at the end of the 22-23 season, when they change it in 2 ways. One is Trent inverts, which is a lot of what Jones is doing now. But the other thing is that Jones goes left wing or left side of the box midfield and plays quite advanced and gets us up the pitch, holds it, wins fouls.
He scored 2 away at Leicester.
He does. Yes, he's one of the last Liverpool midfielders to score a brace. It's just quite striking really, because there's a couple of parallels you can draw. But now he's in literally the diagonally opposite position, but he's still doing the business. Absolutely, I'm made up with him, and I agree with you on the idea of him going. Via to the goal, Ian. I think he needs to assert himself in general. He was asserting himself before the injury. He's now got this goal, and I think the way you assert yourself, if you're not a huge personality, is with output and with excellence. He was there earlier in the season. I would love to finish this season with 4 more performances now from Wirtz, where there's excellence, there's output, and everyone's going, yep.
Yeah, as Adam said, in general, this is the beginning of the next season. We know it's unfortunately the end of last season was the beginning of this season, and we carried on in exactly the form that we were for the last 4 games. This is what you start setting up now, and I think the fact that I didn't like him as a 9, I don't think he's impressed as enough to be in that. I think he can be a false nine, but we try to play him as an orthodox nine. But the fact that he chases this ball down when there's literally nothing to go for, gets the throw in, is willing to take it himself in the first place, but then lets it go to, I think it's Szoboszlai who ends up taking it. Gomez. To a McAllister who's being manhandled more than probably any other player I've ever seen in the box. Somebody has to have a conversation about whether this is appropriate for Adam
Wharton.
Well, yeah, Wharton to be holding on to him like that. That feels wrong. That feels like a foul. But the little touch is lovely. But that finish, that's just imperious. That was absolutely out of nowhere, pinging off the post into the back of the net. That's the player we know we've got. We know the quality he's got, and maybe it's just taking a few weeks to play back in from injury.
Kicks it hard.
Yeah,
that's all you wanted.
Kick it hard, Claxon.
Yeah.
He reminded me of a beach footballer or something on Saturday. It's sort of even the goal. Yes, he kicks it hard, but there's like a light floaty thing going on. But yeah, I mean, look, I love watching it back too. And as Ian was saying, there's an angle actually where you kind of behind McAllister, and you can see Wirtz is quite far away, but his eyes have lit up because he can sort of see the way it's going, and I mean in a sense he sort of goes a little bit under the radar at times, and I think that's sort of what we've seen. But as you say, he needs to exert himself a bit more. He's always in the thick of it though. He just, he's not hiding. He's right in there. In more, it's not necessarily where you'd expect a player like the one we thought.
I think you can make a bit of an argument at times, Adam. He's a bit too in the thick of it.
Yeah.
He's got to get away a little bit more, be brought into the game rather than be desperate to go and find the game. You know, I think that I've been really intrigued watching Cherky recently for City. And it does seem a lot of the time like City have settled into something that's always pretty close to a classic 4-4-2.
Yeah.
Where Haaland's doing at times more spade work than Cherky is. Haaland's coming back in and scrapping for bits. Yeah. And it's almost like Cherky's job is just to sort of flit about a little bit and wait and then come alive. And, you know, I don't think we necessarily need to go that far, but I think there are times where he's showing too much.
Yeah, if you could imagine if Wirtz was playing for City, he'd be much closer to Haaland, because that's how he appears. He's sort of pops up a lot closer to the forwards than you'd kind of expect. He's, as you say, he's right in the mix, and it's in order to get those little touches off. I think his best time this season was where he was linking up brilliantly with Ekitike, and that was, you know, unfortunately, I think they both had injuries sort of around the similar times, or when one was coming back, the other one got injured. So that was the bit that we didn't sort of see. And it's funny, really, because people who do this sort of thing point at his numbers and say it's been consistently quite good for a while, and I think that is sort of part of the same thing. There's a benefit to being right in the mix, because you know you will make things happen. But yeah, I think, as you say, I think it would just be nice for him to take a step back and not be so constantly involved. Pick the moment a little bit more.
I wonder if he goes to the World Cup and things just explode for him, and that he's in a setup that he's familiar with, and he's doing less of the doggy work that he's having to do at Liverpool. All he needs is sort of 3 or 4 brilliant games, comes back with that confidence, and we just see him go into the stratosphere with Liverpool.
The team I want to see win the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean,
if he's playing every game with the team I want to see win the World Cup, I want him to come back to Liverpool next season as a World Cup winner.
Yeah, they play very, very well, and they've got a little bit more solidity in the midfield with Stiller in there, and it seems that his duty is just sort of as that out-and-out number 10. I think for us, we're seeing so much of we're not really touching on the defensive work that he does. He does an awful lot off the ball, but obviously our focus is, our 115 million players who we want to see on the ball, and we're looking how we look in possession. But he's just doing so much off the ball defensively, a lot of pressing, a lot of closing off passing lanes. So you're seeing this sort of performance that you're not, it's not quite the one that you want from your star midfielder. But yeah, next season that might come, considering he probably will have a slightly different midfield. He'll have a little bit more solidity behind him, and maybe we'll see the best out of him.
Freddie Woodman, Kev, what a time for him. But the thing about this though is I really like Phil's point post-match. The Championship's probably the 8th best league in Europe. Might actually be the 7th. You can have a conversation about that. So the idea that he's come from absolutely nowhere, I think, is ridiculous. He's also training with Liverpool, for God's sake. He's talking about the extra work he's doing with Salah or Szoboszlai. That means he's saving shots from Salah and Szoboszlai. You see how he goes both ways, that sort of thing. I'm delighted for him, though. I'm delighted that, you know, he got his name sung by the Kop in a number of different iterations. Suddenly got more songs than Salah.
Do you know what? I never thought I'd be singing for England's first goalkeeper. You know, I never thought that a Scotsman would be in the ground singing for Freddie to be England's goalkeeper.
Yeah, and the thing he doesn't do is, you know, needlessly hack down opposition forwards. There is...
he can even touch the crossbar.
Yeah, and he can even touch the crossbar. But it is... He just plays well. I think it's, you know, none of it's unlikely. I was thinking there was a few... I was making the point in the ground. All this reminds me a little bit of when Paul Jones came in and did... not Brad, Paul came in, did 3 games from nowhere. But part of that was Paul Jones didn't have a lot to do. He just did a lot of 7 out of 10 goalkeeping. In this game, Woodman has got a bit to do, and he does it ever so well.
He's got the most to do out of any home debut Premier League goalkeeper. 5 saves back to Mignolet. So it says a lot about us defensively, but he does so incredibly well to deal with it all. That sort of Curtis Jones gaff that I mentioned earlier on in the show, he comes out to Mateta, makes himself big, and I think that's the first one. And you know, boom, we're right into it. We're ready to go. And it's how you take yourself forward. You know, in performances like that, goalkeepers, defenders need to start with a bit of confidence to be able to go on. And not least, he got loads of that against Everton. So you know, not only has he come after the derby, you know, not too sure if he's starting. I think the manager was saying it might be Ali if he's ready. He's close. He's still got to prepare in a very professional manner. He's still got to be right up for it. He's still got to keep himself fresh, be in the right headspace. And I think he was brilliant. I think he was absolutely brilliant on Saturday. Quite rightly man of the match. It was great to see after the was it the first goal? No, the second goal. That you know he gets his sort of flowers from Konate and Van Dijk, the first over to him to celebrate with him because he's done so well. He's not just saved it. He's put it out of danger and he's put it into Konate's path. Yeah. It's a lot of thinking to do. And also to get down so quickly for the save, I thought it was absolutely amazing from him. And when you come into a team and you're not expecting to play as a sub goalkeeper, never mind a third goalkeeper, that's a lot of pressure, you know, to come on and do so well. I thought he was magnificent.
Just delighted for him.
Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be happier for him because everyone says he's a fantastic bloke. Everyone says he's great round the ground. He may never get that again in his entire life. That might be the highlight of his career, might be the response he got that day. But to get that off the crowd, that's just unbelievable. 60,000 people singing about you being England's number one. 60,000 people singing your name all the way through the game. And justifiably, it's not kind of like they're just there to support you because you need support.
No,
because
the
saves are fantastic. There's no irony at all. It was completely, totally in support of how good he genuinely was.
Yeah, I really like him. Can we keep him?
I think we can. He's got the year, I think.
There is part of it. I think with the singing, having been on the Kop for a couple of games, I do feel like there's a little bit of a people have got a bit of a down on Mamadashvili. Mainly his kicking, and so I sort of feel like part of this has been a bit like, well, actually, he seems quite good, you know. One of my hobby horses is always with not your main goalie, with your second or third goalies, is that I quite like them to be chopped and changed. I feel like after a while, Adrian was good, and then after a while he wasn't. I feel like people kind of get onto you a little bit, but yeah, I would like to see more. I loved it, yeah.
All right, excellent stuff indeed. I wouldn't have said he was man of the match, though. Man of the match was the CJRBS.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from it. All right, here's me last week talking to Robbie O'Neill about the stage adaptation of the Assassination of Margaret Thatcher by Hilary Mantel at the Everyman.
With Robbie O'Neill to talk about the Assassination of Margaret Thatcher, a play at the Everyman. And it's across May, runs until the 23rd of May. If you want to get tickets for it, I'd heartily recommend it. It is based on a short story. The short story is written by Hilary Mantel. It came out about 10 years ago. It was hugely controversial when it came out. It was the lead story, although it's the last in the book, of a series of short stories that Mantel put out. I want to talk to you about this because this is the first time this has been adapted.
Yeah.
And there's a huge response. You're starring.
I am playing Brendan, yeah.
Yep, there's only 2 characters.
Yeah.
There's a huge responsibility, isn't there, taking this remarkably disciplined piece of work by, I would say, the person who is, of the last 50 years, Britain's best novelist. And that is a huge responsibility to take that on for the first time, not just for you, but for everyone involved.
Oh, yeah, it's a beast in every sense of the word. I mean, what the short story is tense. It's not very... It's about
40 pages.
It's not a huge, like a long read in any way, shape or form, but what she captures in that room with those two people, the tension and the curiosity that exists between them in such like a short endeavour is like, it's remarkable. And I suppose the challenge was bringing that to the stage, and I think they're doing it quite well.
I hope you're doing it quite
I
well.
hope so, mate. I would hope.
Well, the Mantell's work gets adapted for the stage. It's been adapted all the time, you know, stuff like Wolf Hall. But the thing with Wolf Hall, the idea of adapting Wolf Hall to the stage, the first responsibility the writer would have to work with the director would be to take things out. What do we trim? From this magnificent piece of work, something like Wolf Hall, what do we trim? What do we decide we don't need to tell the story of? What's fascinating with what you're doing in a play that's coming on in 2 acts, how you're going to tell the story, as I say, of this remarkably tense, claustrophobic 40 pages that she's written. You haven't got to worry about shedding everything. No. You've got to find the essence of what she had. And to me, you know, it must be such an exciting project to be part of this, Robbie.
Well, I read it when it first came out in The Guardian.
Yeah.
Because it was serialised in The Guardian. And I read it in 2014.
Yeah.
And I remember reading it. And you get about, I don't know, you're about a page into it, and Brendan arrives. And when he was described as this Liverpudlian man, my first thought was, I'd love to play that.
Really?
Honest to God. And then, but I was 28, 29 at the time, and I was like, well, I'm a bit young, he's in his late 30s. And then back in the last year, must have been October, I got an email off my agent saying, they're adapting this, would you be interested in talking to the director?
But you answered that quick.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, this is so mad. That's a role I've always wanted to play. And I assumed when it was made that it'd be for film. Yeah. Like the theatre never really like broached my thought process at the time. And but John Young, who is directing it, when I read it, he also read it, and he reached out to Hilary Mantel at the time and said, I want to make this into a play. So they met.
Really?
They met. John and Hilary met, and Hilary originally was going to write it.
No.
Yeah, and you know, sadly Hilary passed away, and at that point, I think there was a lot of conjecture about where it was going to land, and John kept in touch with the estate. I think this is the story I'm telling second hand, but John kept in touch with the estate, and another writer was kind of allocated to the project, Alexandra Woods, who I think's done a brilliant job adapting it, and the play came from that. So it was interesting in that, like, at the same time I've read and I thought, I'd love to be a part of something related to this. The director's done exactly the same thing, but reached out to Hilary. So there has been kind of input from the estate, you know, in the project. There was an R&D in November, which I wasn't a part of, but I know Hilary Mantel's husband was there and stuff like that. So it's all very much kind of like...
It's an intensely personal story.
Yeah.
This because obviously, you know, the work she's done on things like A Place of Greater Safety or on, you know, what she does brilliantly is adapts and the cloak of a character in the way in which she writes. You know, there's so many, obviously Wolf Hall is now the example people know the best, but she does it so many times through a career. But this is literally a moment in her life. And again, that sort of, when we talk about the responsibilities, I'm sure the estate must be involved, because this really is, she was very open at the time, and it was controversial because she lived this experience, obviously without Brendan and without it actually happening, but she had that moment where, and when she's writing about Windsor through that, you know, one of the things that struck me was when I was doing a reread before speaking to you, I was like, everything she's doing there is immensely personal. These are the places she used to go, who she'd speak to, the way she was depicting Windsor at the time. It was very much, this was her experience. She just added this universe shift and twist in amongst it. So it's a hell of a thing to get to do.
Oh, it is, and I think it's so theatrically bold.
Yeah.
I think that the temptation with something like this would actually to just kind of like just put two actors on a stage.
Yeah.
But we've not done that. It's, in my opinion, this is one of the boldest pieces of theatre that will have come out of the city in the last 20 years. And I know that's a big statement to make.
It is.
But I watch a lot of theatre, and I think this, if we get this right, I think we can, you know, it all its own on any stage, because it's just, I feel like the job that like Alex has done with the script and the ideas that John's had for it, I just think the kind of, from an acting point of view, they're so exciting.
Yeah.
They're so exciting. It could only be for theatre. you know, and what Mansell does brilliantly, I think, also is because of like she got such a connection with the spiritual. We've paid attention to that as well, and it seeps in through the play, and at times it feels mystical and otherworldly, and all these things. But at the same time, it's a play about politics and people, and relationships, and like you say, she observes a character so well, like the cloak that she puts over them, and sometimes it's like, are those their thoughts or are those echoes from another other world informing what they're doing? And I feel like that's very present in what we're doing. And you're right, it's a massive privilege. And if I feel like there's hyperbole involved, it's because I'm dead excited. Yeah, I'm dead excited to be part of it.
How many weeks into rehearsal are you now?
4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the actress I'm working with, Anita Reynolds, is just a joy. Who's playing Caroline? Like she's brilliant, and she's got like. She's so playful and mischievous, but she's got like a real integrity. So she's built this character, which in all, you know, in many ways is kind of like delivering the observance that Hilary Mantel would have like, you know, delivered on that day. And it's, and also I think, you know, from a personal point of view, Neil, like getting to do a two-hander at the Everyman, for me, like, you know, that's just a dream come true. I've worked at the Everyman before, passing through, but this play is like, it does feel very, very thought-provoking, very groundbreaking. And when you get into the arts, into acting, for me, it was the sort of work that I always wanted to kind of throw myself into. So to have the chance to do that here on that stage, where I've seen, you know, like I've seen plays there that made me want to do it. Like I was talking in the green room the other day, seen a play there, 20 odd years ago, called Kindness of Strangers, and I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. It just, a play about Liverpool and the people of Liverpool and its history and its place in time and where it was going. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's my world there on a stage, and these people have got really interesting things to say about it. So, and then going to see other things, like I seen Pete Postlethwaite through King Lear there in 2008, just lost my job. And I'm seeing like, you know, I'm just seeing excellence on a stage in my own town. And I was like, I want a bit of that, you know what I mean? And I was lucky to, and you know, so I go to drama school not long after. So for me to be able to go there, do that and do it with a piece of work which resonated with me before I even, from the off. And
well, when you messaged me to say you were doing this, I straight away was like, that's absolutely, you know, phenomenal. Yeah. I remembered reading it in 2014 as well, and it grabbed me at the time because it is such a good piece of work. She was in such a flow at that point, sort of with everything that she was doing. You know, it was excellent. So getting that it is so special.
Mate, it is. It's mad because when you read it, it's like you're creating pictures in your head, but you're kind of looking in. But when you're in it, you're kind of looking out, and that is such the cognitive dissonance at times is like mad. I'm like, I can't wait to get onto the stage with it, because the setting and the design is like, it's like nothing else I've seen. Well, in at the Everyman anyway, I think it's a really, really kind of brave bit of programming from the Everyman. And when I say brave, I mean they've gone in on it, and they've kind of said, let's be stringent with this, let's put everything into it, let's be disciplined with it, let's be careful about it, let's pay it the respect that's due. And it's a total joy, mate. It's a total joy. And I think, like, we were talking about it today, and I think, it's set in Windsor, but it's very much a play for Liverpool, because it's about Liverpool. It's about Liverpool, and it's about Britain in 1983. And Brendan is a conduit of a man who's lived that. And not only has he lived it, he's been looking at people who've lived this experience, and it's broken his heart, and he's got a loose grasp of another cause that he can, like, well, I can wrap my anger for this around that, and I can make a difference. And then he finds himself in this place that is out of a fairy tale, essentially. Finds himself walking the streets of Windsor, heading to this singular flat, and then he meets this woman who's got all these ideas about what she's going to be like. She'll be a snob, she'll be this, you know, and then he gets in, and then his world is borderline turned upside down, because his perception of what people is is totally turned on its head. And then he's still got to carry out the task. So there's just pure drama and pure conflict in there, and I think it's going to be interesting for people who live through that period in Liverpool to watch, because they might, maybe it's food for thought for them, because we both know a lot of people who despised Thatcher, and I'm no fan myself, you know what I mean? And those people are going to go and watch it, and they might have an idea of what they're going to watch. I would love to talk to them on the way out to see what they think.
Yeah.
But there's also going to be food for thought for the younger generation who are going to go into it and they're not going to know much about Liverpool in the 80s, or Britain in the 80s, or the Falklands, or the IRA.
Or even just Windsor.
Or Windsor.
The concept of Windsor was
because I'd never been to Windsor before, Neil. So, but when I got the part, I mean, I live in South London, so I just jumped on the train. I was like, go and have a look around, because that's the brilliant thing about the short story. She lists all these streets.
Yeah.
She lists all these shops. She lists these landmarks. The flat's there.
Yeah.
I didn't go in, but I went to see the flat. And I was walking around. I took the wrong turn. I didn't realise. And next thing, I'm in Eton. I'm at Eton school. I've got to see these fellas walking around, like, you know, long, like long coats on and stuff. And I'm like, it's like I'm going into a time slip, you know. But then I just felt innately out of place, which is mad, because I've lived in the south of England for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
But to be there and feel out of place, it made me think about what must my friends and family have felt back then.
Do you feel as though we understand... I mean, there's a line in the... I don't want to do the line out of the book, but there's a line in the book about the English. Do you feel as though we understand the South well enough? And I don't mean, like, when I say we, I don't just mean us up here in Liverpool. I think that's a thing. But people... Take London out. Pretend I'm not referring to London here when I say the South. I don't know if the South understands the South well enough, if you know what I mean. When I'm down and I'm around places in the south of England, one of the things I'm quite surprised about is places that they think are remarkably lovely and verdant and special, if you know what I mean. I'm always a bit like, I think Kirby Lonsdale's better than this. I'm always a bit like, you know, when you're lucky to live in Liverpool in a number of ways, not least because the health outcomes, you know, the unbelievable quality of hospital for both young and old, just round the corner. But there's great swathes of the south of England that just is not served in the same way. And I'm always struck by, and it's interesting, you know, now we're talking about Windsor and thinking about Mantell and thinking about the country as it was, the country as it is. It's because there's firstly, we perceive them to be snobby, but it's also worth saying that a number of them think it's shit up there.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, but it's not great here. So if it's not great here, it must be terrible up there. But I think that leaves them to be ill-informed, if you sort of see what I mean. And this is what I mean about, I don't know how much the south of England actually understands the south of England, let alone us.
No, I think that's like a really interesting point for the play, because I think, but this kind of comes across in the short.
Yeah.
The character of Caroline is very clearly moved by the idea of Brendan.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting, because it's kind of like, when I say moved, she's like, what are you? You know what I mean? What do you...
You've got more skin in this game than me.
Yeah.
But I'm in this game as well, but you've got more skin than me. But then that challenges his perception as to whether or not that's the case.
Exactly. And I think what the play does is it does kind of like broach slightly into that.
Yeah.
And what I found, like I've lived in the south of England for, like I said, over 10 years now, and it's challenged my perception of Thatcher, because I've had to have conversations with people while I'm there, which is kind of difficult, to be honest, because I'm like, yeah, I've got, like, this was my opinion, this is where I grew up, this is what I feel she did, this is what her government did, there's this, yeah, I'm not a fan. And then they go, but I'm a fan. And these are working class people.
Yeah.
These aren't like...
Yeah.
These aren't Tory, the Tories, but they're not aristocrats in the way we imagine a Southern Tory to be. And what is interesting about that and interesting about the play, there's that old kind of like, we've often got more in common than we ever know. And this is the thing with what I think is interesting about the play, is that when people actually stop to listen and have that conversation and go, you know what, I really disagree with you here, but I can kind of see where you're coming from. It's remarkable what that can do to our perception. And I think you're right. I think you go to like certain parts of the south of England where you're like, fucking hell, there's not much going on here. There isn't much going on. And actually, when I think about like when I was growing up, like there's parts of Liverpool when I was growing up were pretty like ran down and, you know, left to rot.
Yeah.
I go to parts of London now, or I go to different parts of the south of England, and the same thing, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there, but everyone's looking for something to blame.
Yeah.
Or someone to blame, rather.
It's going to be fascinating, honestly. I can't wait. I'm going. I've already got my tickets. As soon as Robbie messaged me, I had my tickets booked that day, there and then sorted out. It was difficult at the time. Liverpool could have still been in Europe and all sorts of games could have moved around. So I had to get it boxed off. It's clear now on your schedule. You've got no excuses. If you're in Liverpool, the City region, Manchester, wherever you might be in the Northwest, come be part of this. It's going to be the absolute business. It starts on May the 2nd. It ends on May the 23rd. Running. Is there any matinees?
There is, but they're not consistent.
Not consistent. So check it on the website.
So check them out.
Check it on the website. The Everyman's the absolute business. It's great that they're putting this on. As Robbie says, it's a brave bit of stage and it'll get a lot of chatter right the way across the country, really. It will be reviewed widely. It's why Robbie's under pressure.
Big time.
Check it out. It's going to be the business. See you in a minute.
Excellent stuff from Robbie. Do check that out. Also, do download the Anfield Wrap app and think about subscribing to everything that we've got going on there at the moment. Currently getting ourselves geared up for a massive summer across the board. Expecting a lot of action, ins and outs at Anfield. So do have the app ready. Use the tokens if you want to try some of the stuff that is behind the paywall, or just subscribe straight either through the app or through any other means that you choose to find. You can go to theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe for that. Other bit of business, relatively quickly. Album of the week. This week, I've gone for Hard Hearted Woman by Aura Cogan. She's a Canadian singer-songwriter, but it's very gothic Americana. Some of you may find it a little bit too droney for your tastes. I'd just say you've got to grow up in that context and commit wholeheartedly to this sort of thing. It's nicely experimental in amongst the country space. If I say it's reminiscent of Lamb Chop, I don't want it to say it sounds like Lamb Chop, but one of the best things about Kurt Wagner's work is how much he plays with that form and finds spaces and finds all sorts of bits and pieces. I'm a huge Lamb Chop fan, and this by Aura Cogan very much reminded me of them. But you are warned on the drones. Okay, I want to talk briefly about the protests. The protests have been talked about in a number of different places on the Anfield Wrap. The first thing to point out, which of you, I'll go Adam, is the number of people who were more than happy to hold those yellow cards up. You can say it's just solely holding a yellow card up at that point, and there might be a few people at Anfield, at Liverpool, who might be trying to say that. I think it speaks of a fair bit of discontent that there is. I don't think that discontent is solely at Liverpool Football Club, but I do think it is the universe that Liverpool Football Club are making their decisions in, and it would be fantastic. It's fantastic to have a rethink before the end of the season.
Yeah, it's quite hard to get broad support from the Anfield crowd. I've found in my match-going life, and sort of, you know, on being on the outskirts at times with the start of Spirit of Shankly. I think me and you gave out some flyers once, and you know we did get quite a lot of people saying no at that time. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was definitely a large portion of the crowd that as far as I could tell, and I think you know maybe it's you're not quite sure what everybody's personal feelings are about it all, but the fact is it's too expensive. It's too expensive now.
I agree,
and that is the thing which, you know,
you're not arguing about inflation. You're arguing about the fact that it's literally just too expensive.
It's too expensive. You know, look at the successful campaign to make away tickets cheaper. You know, away tickets used to be £60 plus, and now they're £30. You know, that shows that it can go the other way. The amounts of money, the figures that are bandied around in general when we talk about football, signing players, TV deals, all these things, when that is compared to the amount of money that is generally made by the club and the clubs from ticket prices, it pales into insignificance basically, and it always makes me wonder why they are doing it. What is the eventual goal? But yeah, I think it has to stop. And as I say, it's not necessarily anything to do with me holding card. When I'm holding a card up, I'm not thinking this is about however many % it's going to be more expensive next season. I'm thinking it's too expensive now.
And this is one of the issues really, is that where the starting points ended up, and then people are talking about percentages on top. Kev, I think that this is the difficult part of it. I think that on the whole, you know, simply for me, it is each time this happens, and this is why in a way I've almost got sympathy with the club wanting to settle the argument for 3 years. I just don't disagree hugely with how they've chosen to do it, because this is where everything sort of starts from over and over again, is that it is just simply too expensive. And you know, I think that's the case across the board. I think it's the case across the Premier League. I think it's certainly the case at Tottenham Hotspur, where people have been paying this season over 70, 80 quid to watch that rubbish in general admission. You know, and I think that everyone's now so in touch, all of this permeates. And I think that this again sort of creates the mood music around it. Everyone can see that it's too expensive, and it's too expensive across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a member, so I'm not guaranteed a ticket before before when the fixtures come out. So I'm sort of on a game by game basis trying to get my ticket. And for people that don't know how it works, I basically go on the website and wait for ticket drops to happen. So I don't get to choose where I sit. I don't get to choose. I can choose the bracket of ticket prices that I want, but if I start to make it sort of just the Cop tickets, which are the cheapest ones, I'm not going to get any because there's none that drop in the Cop. So my ticket on Saturday was £55, and I remember when I got one, I'm always made up. I was thinking, that's a bit brutal. End of the month, baby on the way, and that's just me. And I'm lucky enough that I'm in employment and I'm fairly comfortable. But there's people that just aren't, and there's people that are younger who are doing a lot of jobs in customer service, or they're earning an hourly wage, and there's already up in arms about how much people are earning there. So it's like Adam said, it's the wider community that this is important for. What I really enjoyed was when I got into the ground, some of the lads who were handing out the flyers were younger than I can fathom, and they were doing such a fantastic job because they were talking mainly to, I was in the main stand, so there was maybe people who were there for a day trip or they're from abroad, and they were educating and talking to people, talking them through what was going on and why it was going on, and that's such a huge part of it. So these people that are in the ground holding up the placards haven't just been handed a yellow card and been told, hold that up in the 13th minute. They've been told exactly what is going on and why it's going on and why it's important. And these people who held it up are day trippers as well, who understand the lifeblood of this club is the fans and the people who go there day in, day out. It's incredibly important. And I'd say Billy Hogan would do well not to be smirking like an idiot on television at that moment, because I've watched the game back and I was very, very angry at in that moment. I think you can just be a little bit clever about yourself and just watch the game and not be having a wee joke with your mates. I hope that we can get something sorted out before Chelsea, because this is, to our detriment as well. We're not buying anything in the ground. We're changing our entire match.
I'm thirsty, Kev. I really need me 2 bottles of water. Buy 2 bottles of water for every game, and I'm struggling at the minute.
Exactly.
It was a hot day.
Yeah.
Exactly. You really have to think about it now. You have to think about where you're eating before you go to the game and whatnot. It's not that we're just doing this for jollies. This is hard for everybody. I really hope that we can sort it out, not least because we'd like to have a nice day at the match without, that and the queues going on, but because it's a very important issue and we just want to have the conversation, please.
I think have the conversation, please. I think, Ian, what I don't want more than anything is I just don't want this being there at the start of next season. And I think it will be if there is a resolution that's found. And I think everyone wants that excitement that first day at Anfield in August. No one wants to have to add in whatever stage the protest action is up to at that point. I think it is important.
Because it's not going to look great if the first game next season we don't walk into the 15th minute.
Or anything that goes like that,
So it's, sorry, I completely interrupted the question you about.
No, that's what you made the point.
But it's if this will go on, it's not like we're going to drop the subject just because we get to August and go, oh, well, we're just paying the money now. I thought it was fantastic at the weekend, the fact that so many people had the cards. I hadn't even heard about the protest till Thursday because I'm not on Twitter anymore. So I saw it on Blue Sky on Thursday and thought, well, if it's this late, how are people going to know? Got given the card, and people saying, yeah, you're just holding a piece of card. Yeah, but these people are holding a piece of A4 paper in their hand for the first 13 minutes of the game and all the time before to keep it straight so it's not folded up in your pocket. So you can go like that on 13 minutes and actually make an effort. That is not just holding a card. That's having the impetus to do it and knowing why it has to be done. I've not seen the footage of Billy Hogan yet. I've seen the photo. It doesn't look great. I love the fact that Billy Hogan's personal email to us all dropped the day before they told us they just spent £33 million on agents' fees. I spent some of the last 20 minutes while we weren't doing a great deal looking at the amount of sponsors that were going across the screen at the bottom of the Annie Road and going, £1,000 more per game for them. The lawnmower guys, the robot lawnmower guys, who clearly, they're not aimed at me because I can't afford a robot lawnmower. Charge them £1,000 more game. Charge them £1,000 more game. You've paid for your 1.2 million. I'll tell you what, don't give yourselves a pay rise because nobody else is getting pay rises at the moment. Don't use inflation as an excuse. When the Taylor report said that the football fans should not be made to pay for the improvements that were needed in the game, the football fans have been made to pay for the improvements that were made in the game at that point over and over and over again. And the improvements had to happen. Obviously, I'm old enough to know exactly why the improvements had to happen. And I know what was said in the Taylor report. Football fans have been made to pay over and over and over again because the game got gentrified at that point, because the owners, who are not the same owners as most clubs have now, but the owners at the time saw a chance to go, we can make more money out of this. At that point, everybody built on top of that.
This is where I've still got a modicum of sympathy because I think that one of the things that happens here is that when the prices begin to absolutely boom, and this is back to it being too expensive, but this is also back to we've inherited this and you've wanted to be part of this, Adam, for me, if you see what I mean. Like, you're taking a lot of the positives of the entire thing, so you've got to accept what you've stepped into. You know, Liverpool for many a year had frozen tickets. Now, we remember that's in part because of the £77 walkout. But this is where that idea of, you know, you've stepped into a situation where the tickets were already too expensive. This is the bit that I can't get back past, if you see what I mean. You know, the arguing over the percentage increases is, as you say, a big part of it is just simply part of saying, no, we think this is too expensive anyway. And that is why for them, I'm sure there's a few people in Liverpool who are like, it's only this percent and we're going to cap it at this and we think it's only this and we think we're being... But so many people's starting point is, it's too expensive. And it's too expensive. And the Taylor report, literally, the fact that, and you know, this is a Liverpool problem in a way, the fact that they're surrounded by people who can quote the Taylor report at them is a big part of this. Everyone is switched on to exactly how much and how long a lot of this has been going on for.
Yeah, and that's the context for us, and we are a stakeholder here. My concern is that they are acting as a part of a wider move from almost all the clubs that I can think of to put prices up at the moment. So whether that's a explicit conversation that they have with each other or not, there is obviously there is something going on, and I think that it's important for us, literally us, to push back on it, because I don't see many others starting it, even though I do feel like it is a broadly felt feeling. I think it would be an important. I think the other clubs would see it as a massive positive if Liverpool folded and this protest failed. So I do think it's really, really important what we're doing at the moment.
It was great to see Palace get involved as well, by the way, because this is a league-wide issue. It's not just Liverpool fans that want this; it's fans across the board.
I really think they do. I feel like we, for some reason, we tend to be the one of the louder ones. So. I feel like it is broadly felt. I feel like there will be broad agreement from everybody in terms of football fans. But people will be watching with interest from all sorts of different stakeholder backgrounds, I think.
Stakeholders are head off there. Excellent stuff. All right, last little thing. I'm not going to talk about Man United. It's ages away. They haven't even played yet. They're going to play a game, so we'll not worry too much about that. I want to talk about the Anfield Wrap's Embodiment of Liverpool award, which we're going to start asking for this week, just in a really straightforward way. It's not necessarily asking who's your player of the year, but who do you feel as though is embodied where Liverpool have found themselves over the course of this campaign the most? Who is the one that you want to sort of say has been the best in terms of the values that you want to see? I'll be honest, I'm the captain all the way. I'm not a complicated man on this. I think given how awful the start of the season was in so many aspects of what's gone on, and also in general, I don't think he's been perfect, and I don't think he'd say he's been perfect himself. But I also feel as though he's fought for his life and for our lives a lot over the course of the seasons. And maybe I'm just a bit biased off Saturday as well, recency bias. Who would you go for?
It's a really hard one, this, isn't it?
Because we've been crap.
Yeah, because
that's a big part of it.
Because we've been so inconsistent. The one's been consistently perfect all the way through the season. The captain's led well. At the recency bias at the moment, I'm very much Freddie Woodman, because I do like a fairy tale, and he's had that fairy tale day. Part of me thinks we should be honouring Robbo or Mo because of what they've done for a decade for us. I think Robbo would be perfect for that. I think Mo's been brilliant, but then the last season of Mo's career hasn't been great, and there's been a bust up with the manager, and it's a hard one.
You'd have to pick Nawi in.
I think he becomes the captain by default. I think it's a good argument for the captain.
It's hard to look past him, really, isn't it? It's hard to look past Virgil when you sort of think about our top players and how they've performed. I think there's been times where people have been good. Ali's been good for a time. Ekitiku's good for a time. Szoboszlai was good for a time.
A little bit too much of waving his arms at the fans.
Well, yeah, but he's not. Well, I think that's the opposite of recency bias, isn't it? You know, he's really annoying me at the moment. So, but he was
really good for next.
He was our player of the season for a while there. So yeah, I think probably in terms of consistency, it's hard to look past Virgil. The other person I was going to say was Robbo, because I as I've previously described, I really love him.
There we go. What do you think? What would your thoughts?
I'm going
be?
slightly different. I'm going to go Milos Kerkez. I think I think it's difficult to come into a club like Liverpool, even if you've got all the Premier League experience that he's got, and how good he was last season, Premier League team of the season. To take that shirt off Andy Robertson in the first place is a pretty mean feat, and he's had to deal with adversity coming into the club, a whole mishmash of issues that we're all aware of, that he's come in, dealt with really well, a really hard start as well, a lot of criticism that came his way, and he dealt with it very, very well. If we're talking about, you know, an embodiment of the club, I felt like he just dealt with this season as a grown-up, you know, as a real sort of settled head on his shoulders. He seems like such a good guy. He was at the snooker the other day, Neil. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah, very pleased.
Since Robbo's already got one, I'm going Milos. I think he's done himself absolutely no wrong this season. I think he's been good.
All right, well, that email will be dropping over the course of the week. Do get involved, do get stuck in. As I say, it's not necessarily player of the year, it is embodying the values that you're looking for. Thank you very much indeed to Robbie O'Neill coming in, talking about that play. Looks absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much to Milo and Andy behind the scenes there as well. Ben sitting in, he's going to be with us for a month of work experience. And thank you very much to Kev, to Ian and to Adam. Yeah, not everything's perfect at Liverpool, far from it. Quite a dissection there of all the bits and bobs. But Liverpool still remain well placed to build and have an excellent season next season, as long as they manage to keep themselves thinking straight, doing straight, going about the business in the proper way. Thank you very much.